Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at etrailer, and today we'll be taking a look at our Hollywood Racks destination for a bike rack right here on our 2020 Ford Edge. So this is the affordable 4-bike platform rack. Definitely an upgrade to the hanging rack. So if you want the stability of a platform rack, but not the super high price, this might be a good option for you. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the features of this bike rack just to see if it's the right fit for your bicycles as well as your Ford Edge. So first off, we are going to take a look at how our bike is mounted to this bike rack. You cannot tilt it away with the bikes on. So first we'll take a look before we take the bike off. So we have 1, 2, 3 mounting points. 2 of those mounting points are our wheel straps. The third mounting point is our frame mount. So this offers a 360 degree of rotation. So you can move this up, down, left, right, and you can even rotate that frame mount to accommodate bikes of different shapes and different sizes. But when you want to take the bike off, you start at the wheel straps. First, notice that you have to reach kind of all the way across your bike rack in order to access your bike. And for the wheel straps, you have to press this lever, and then you can lift that strap up and then out. What I recommend doing is just putting this to the side. That way it doesn't get tangled up in your spokes when you're ready to take the whole bike off. So do the same for the other wheel strap. Right over here, we'll just leave that to the side and then go over to your bike. So notice how you kind of have to hold on to the bike with one hand as you release that frame mount with the other hand. You'll have to be kind of careful with this just so that you can make sure that the bike doesn't tilt back towards your Ford Edge. But notice that now that once we have that released, I just need to maneuver it over that mast, and then we are ready to go on a bike ride. I'm just going to leave this bike over to the side so that we can take a closer look at the bike rack itself. So first, notice how we have these cradles. They angle downwards, kind of like wings. The maximum wheelbase this bike rack can accommodate is up to 48 inches. We also have that strap with that rubber lining on top. Make sure you put this right on top of your wheel before you strap that whole thing down. Please note that when you do have your bikes off of your bike rack, I still highly recommend putting those straps away just so they're not flopping around as you drive around, and then they'll last a little bit longer. This does have a maximum weight capacity of 35 pounds per bike. If you have extra heavy bikes, probably not going to be the best option for you, but 35 pounds is usually just a standard for your bike racks. You also have that frame mount over here. Remember how we talked about how this can rotate if you want to use. But before we take a look at that, first let's take a look at this. Notice how with the bikes off, you can now access your trunk even without moving this mast down. That way you can get in there, maybe grab your helmets, your bags, your waters without having to lower the mast. The downside is you still have to take off that rear bicycle in order to open your hatch. But with that down, we'll move this down as well. So let's take a look at that process. So you have this knob over here. You're going to want to loosen that knob just enough so you can remove this anchor and bring that down. Then don't forget to tighten that back down again so that this has space to rotate down. From here, you can either use these straps on your frame mount, or you can use the strap on your wheel mount in order to secure that mast. There we go. Now that's a completely stowed position. Before we take a look at any of the other features, we're first going to take some measurements. Because anytime you have a bike rack on your vehicle, there's going to be some length added to the back of it. So I'm going to measure from the rear bumper on our Ford Edge right over here to where we have those nice plastic reflectors. At the end of the bike rack, it sits at, let's see, 37.5 inches of length added. So that's a lot of length added to the back of your vehicle, but you are carrying around 4 bikes. Whenever you back into your garage or try to park into a really tight spot, Don't forget that this is behind you as well as your bikes. Since you do have a mid-sized SUV, definitely something worth considering if you have a smaller garage. This is a very important measurement to have. Now, let's also take a look at ground clearance. So first, right where the reflectors are in the center of the bike rack to the ground, it's 22.5 inches. But at the end of the wings, it sits at 17.75 inches. Now let's compare that measurement with the measurement right at the shank. So that sits at 10.75 inches. So notice how we have a shank rise. That way your bikes are sitting a little bit higher up the further away from your vehicle they are. That's important because you kind of have limited ground clearance right where your hitch is. Here on your forward edge, as you go up steep inclines, you'll have to be conscious of ground clearance because as you go up those inclines like your driveways or hills, your front will go up, this will go down, and you want to make sure you have as much ground clearance for your bikes as you can get so they don't hit the ground. So this shank rise is helpful. Another thing you can do with this bike rack is, if you're not planning on taking your bikes out just yet, but you also don't want to take your bike rack off, you can fold this up so it's a little bit more compact or portable. To do so, there's a pin or there's a bolt and a clip right over here. You're going to want to remove that clip and then rotate the knob on this bolt. That's pretty easy to do. Once it's released, just let that hang since it does have kind of a strap holding it in place. You're then going to fold this up against your vehicle and make sure just to line it up. Put that bolt right back where you put it. I like this design a bit more than the pins and clips that other similar bike racks have, just because that threading helps keep this nice and secure. But once you have this fully tightened down, don't forget that clip you used earlier. That's going to be used to secure that bolt. There you go. And now it's in the stowed position. So we'll take some measurements with it looking like this. Measuring first for closest point. We actually have these straps. Let's try to get a better fit there so it doesn't get as close. Measuring, you can also store this like away from your bike rack. There we go. You now have a clearance of about 2 inches between the edge of your frame mounts and your bumper. You have a pretty sturdy fit here, so it's not getting any closer than that. Let's take a look at length added. So from the bumper, the furthest point will be the end of the shank, and that sits at around 10.5 inches away. Big difference compared to when this was folded down. You'll definitely want this in this position when you're just planning on driving around town without your bikes on. Also note the way it sits behind your vehicle. Our rear window is completely visible, so you can still see out of your rear mirror. Our taillights are mainly visible. It does seem like it looks like it covers part of it right over there on the edge, but still mainly visible. What this does cover though is it covers your backup camera as well as your license plate. If that's going to be a major issue for you, you may want to consider either the Kuat Transfer 4 bike rack, which has a open goalpost design, or you could just even drive this around in the down position if you want to make sure that's visible at all times with your bikes off. Now, let's talk about how this fits into our hitch. We have a 2-inch shank. This also fits into our 2-inch hitch receiver on our forward edge. We have an anti-rattle bolt and a lock. So make sure if you do want the full thing, we also have a Hollywood rack set which has a cable lock and that bolt. Those all work together with one key to access the whole system. You also get a tool to tighten that down, but I highly recommend doing what I do, which is I pick up a socket wrench with a 3/4 inch socket. Makes it so much easier to tighten down that bolt and activate the anti-rattlenest. So how does that work? It tightens your shank to your hitch receiver. So as I do a demonstration, put this down, and I shake our bike rack to really mimic the road sway and vibration. You do see the straps wobbling around a little, but also look how much the vehicle is moving, showing that it's a secure fit between our shank and our hitch receiver That's kind of how the anti-rattle works. You'll still have movement on the road, but not as much as if it was an improper fit. So, my personal thoughts about this bike rack is it's definitely one of the more affordable 4-bike platform racks. Definitely an upgrade from a hanging rack since you get more stability and your bikes aren't swinging into each other as a 4-bike hanging rack would. The downside to this bike rack is you do not get that tilt away feature. You will have to remove your rear bike if you want to access your hatch. Also, you don't have that much of a weight capacity. If you want that weight capacity, you still want the 4-bike platform rack, definitely consider the Kuat Transfer 4-bike rack. Still a little bit pricier, but then you get all those premium features as well. But if you just have normal bikes, you just want a platform rack, something that's relatively easy to use, this would still work for you. So this was a look at the Hollywood Racks Destination 4-bike rack right here on our 2020 Ford Edge.
Now we're going to go ahead and take it on our test course. First we'll start with the slaloms. This is going to show the side-to-side action. It's kind of going to mimic the movements that you'll see whenever you're driving down the road normally. Now we'll have the alternating speed bumps. This is going to be more so like the uneven roads and some of that uneven terrain you might be traveling on, and see how it holds up.